Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into the deep end, the absolutely chaotic final days of the Kingdom of Judah. We're talking political backstabbing, massive empires flexing their muscles, and watching a whole nation just fall apart.
So, how does a nation actually collapse? Is it this slow, drawn-out thing? Or is it more like a sudden, spectacular explosion? Well, today we're looking at a case study of the second one. It's the story of a kingdom caught smack dab in the middle of a heavyweight fight between two ancient superpowers, Egypt and Babylon.
Okay, so let's set the scene. We're jumping in right at the end of an era for the Kingdom of Judah. And you gotta understand, this wasn't some isolated place. It was a tiny little kingdom trapped in this insane, high-stakes game of chess between giants. And let's be honest, it was a game they were probably never gonna win. And this really shows you just how precarious their situation was. I mean, look at this. You've got Egypt over on one side, maybe not at its peak, but still a major player. And then on the other side, you've got the terrifying up-and-coming superpower of Babylon, led by Nebuchadnezzar. And who's stuck right in the middle? Yep, the tiny, vulnerable kingdom of Judah. So you can imagine this pressure cooker of a situation just created total chaos. It led to this revolving door of kings, 4 of them in just over 20 years. It's a classic story, right? A smaller nation gets squeezed, loses its independence, and ends up with leaders who are just puppets for foreign powers. And, as we're about to see, each one was somehow worse than the last. All right, let's meet king number 1. His name is Jehoahaz. He's only 23 years old when he takes the throne. You have to imagine he's thinking, okay, this is it. My time to shine. I'm going to have a long, great reign. Yeah, about that. His reign lasted for a grand total of 3 months. That's it. The Pharaoh of Egypt just marches in, kicks him off the throne, and hauls him off to Egypt as a prisoner. I mean, blink and you miss it. His entire career as king was over. Now, Egypt couldn't just leave the throne empty, right? So they grabbed Jehoahaz's brother, and they basically say, you're king now. Oh, and by the way, you work for us. A total puppet king. So this guy, Jehoiakim, he actually hangs on for a while, 11 years. But his entire time as king is summed up by this one single reoccurring judgment that we see over and over in the source material. And it's not good. The text just keeps saying, he did evil in the eyes of the Lord his God. And we're not talking about a small mistake here. This was a whole pattern of doing the wrong thing. Eventually, Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon gets fed up with him, attacks, and the text says he was literally put in bronze chains and dragged away. So, who's next in this tragic line? Well, it's his son, Jehoiachin. And get this, he inherits this absolute dumpster fire of a kingdom when he's just 18 years old. Talk about being thrown in the deep end. And you guessed it, the pattern just keeps repeating itself. He makes all the same mistakes his dad did. And his reign, it lasts just 3 months and 10 days before Nebuchadnezzar shows up again, and this time they not only take the king to Babylon, but they also loot the temple, taking all its treasures with them. Okay, so this brings us to the final act, the last king of Judah. His name is Zedekiah. And his choices, well, they aren't just going to lead to his own ruin. They are going to be the final nail in the coffin for the entire nation. This is the point of no return. And Zedekiah, he takes it to a whole new level. It's not just that he repeated the same old mistakes. The source points out 4 huge, fatal errors. First, he completely ignores the prophet Jeremiah. Second, he rebels against Babylon, breaking a sacred oath he made. And finally, the text says he just hardened his heart and refused to change course. This isn't just bad politics. It's a masterclass in how to destroy everything. And this attitude, this unfaithfulness, it wasn't just the king. It trickled all the way down, to the priests, to the people, and according to the narrative, this was the last straw. Patience had finally run out. Yeah, there's this one line in the text that is just chilling. It says, "The people mocked the messengers and scoffed at the warnings until the wrath of the Lord was aroused against his people, and there was no remedy." Wow, no remedy. That means there was no way back. The die was cast. And so, Nebuchadnezzar's army was let loose on Jerusalem. And listen, this wasn't just a takeover. This was a complete and total teardown. They systematically dismantled the entire city. God's temple? Set on fire. The walls of Jerusalem? Broken down. All the palaces? Burned. Everything of value was destroyed. Just gone.
And whatever wasn't burned to a crisp, they took. I mean everything. Every symbol of their nation, their wealth, their faith, all the articles from the temple, big and small, the king's treasures, it was all packed up and shipped off to Babylon. You'd think for the people who actually survived all that, the siege, the fighting, that would be the worst of it. But no, the fall of the city wasn't the end of their story. It was just the beginning of a whole new kind of nightmare. So the people who were left, the survivors, they were rounded up and forced into exile in Babylon. They became servants, and their home, it was left empty, desolate. The text has this really powerful, kind of haunting phrase for it. It says the land enjoyed its Sabbath rests. And this wasn't just a random amount of time. This period of exile, this emptiness, it would last for 70 years. And that number is so important because it fulfilled a prophecy made years before by Jeremiah. The same prophet that the last king completely ignored. But here's where the story takes a crazy turn. After 70 long, hard years, the political map of the world starts to shift again. And just when you think it's all over, that all hope is gone, something completely unexpected happens. That big, bad Babylonian Empire, it falls, and a new superpower rises to take its place, the Kingdom of Persia. And literally in the very first year of the new king, a guy named Cyrus, the entire game changes for the people of Judah in exile. Cyrus puts out this absolutely jaw-dropping announcement. He says that the God of heaven has basically tasked him with rebuilding the temple back in Jerusalem. And then he says this, any of his people among you may go up. He tells them they can go home. After 70 years, can you even imagine hearing that? So you go from total, absolute collapse, politically, spiritually, everything, to this completely unexpected, almost miraculous second chance. And that whole story leaves us with a really powerful question, doesn't it? It's a question not just for nations, but for any company, any organization, maybe even for us as individuals. When you've hit rock bottom, what does it actually take to rebuild?